Super Heavy booster descends, it will use its grid fins to maneuver into position. The grid fins, which look like massive waffle irons attached to the upper part of the booster, provide aerodynamic control during the descent. The booster will then fire its engines to slow its descent and hover briefly. At this point, the chopstick arms will then close around the booster, catching it by the hardpoints near its top. These hardpoints are reinforced sections of the booster, specifically designed to bear the load during this catching maneuver. Once caught, the booster can be lowered onto the launch mount, refueled, and prepared for another launch. This system, if successful, could dramatically reduce the turnaround time between launches. Traditional rocket landings require inspections and refurbishment that can take days or weeks. With Mechazilla, SpaceX hopes to reduce this to hours, potentially allowing multiple launches of the same booster in a single day. This rapid reusability is key to SpaceX's plans for making space access more affordable and frequent. So, what can we expect from today's Starship 5 mission? Building on the successes of the previous flights, Space is aiming for several key objectives: a successful liftoff and stage separation. While this has been achieved before, each launch provides more data to refine the process. The validating the despite ending in a fiery altitude, but also ending in a crash landing. This test helped refine the landing flip maneuver and highlighted the importance of engine reliability. The dramatic explosion upon impact underscored the high-stakes nature of these tests and the challenges of landing such a large vehicle. SN-10, launched in March 2021, achieved the first soft landing of a Starship prototype. For a brief moment, it seemed like complete success had been achieved. However, the vehicle exploded a few minutes after touchdown due to a methane leak, underscoring the challenges of the new propulsion system and the complexities of managing cryogenic fuels. SN-11, also in March 2021, encountered problems during its descent and was lost before landing. This test provided valuable data on the vehicle's behavior in foggy, low-visibility conditions, an important consideration for a vehicle designed to operate in various atmospheric conditions on Earth and potentially other planets. The N-15 test in May 2021 marked a significant milestone, achieving the first successful high-altitude flight and landing. This prototype incorporated several improvements based on data from previous flights, demonstrating the effectiveness of SpaceX's iterative design process. The successful landing of SN-15 was a pivotal moment, proving that the unique belly flop maneuver and last-second flip to vertical orientation could work reliably. These early tests paved the way for the full-stack tests we've seen recently. The first orbital launch attempt came in April 2023. While it didn't reach orbit, this test was crucial in validating the full Starship stack's performance during launch. The Super Heavy booster performed well during the initial ascent, but the stack encountered problems during stage separation. Despite ending in a dramatic explosion, this test provided invaluable data on the behavior of the full Starship system. The second test in November 2023 saw significant improvements. Both stages separated successfully, and the flight duration was extended. The upper stage reached a higher altitude than before, though it still fell short of orbital velocity. This test also demonstrated improved control during the hypersonic phase of flight, a critical capability for eventual missions beyond Earth orbit. The third test in March 2024 achieved partial success. Both stages performed well during ascent and separation. The booster executed a controlled descent, but was lost just before its planned water landing. The upper stage reached its intended altitude and demonstrated some on-orbit maneuvering capabilities before re-entering the atmosphere. However, it broke apart during the final phases of re-entry, highlighting the challenges of the heat shield design. This test was particularly important in validating Starship's ability to perform orbital insertion burns and maneuver in space. This brings us to the fourth test launch in July 2024, which was a game changer. During this mission, Starship not only achieved clean stage separation, but also demonstrated controlled re-entry of both stages. The upper stage reached its intended altitude and performed a series of on-orbit maneuvers, showcasing its ability to deploy payloads and simulate refueling in space. This was a critical demonstration for future missions to the Moon and Mars, where on-orbit refueling will be essential. The booster, during the fourth test, didn't attempt a landing on the launch tower. Instead, it performed a soft water landing in the Gulf of Mexico. This controlled descent was a crucial step towards today's ambitious catching attempt. The successful water landing proved that the massive booster could be precisely controlled during its return to Earth, setting the stage for the even more challenging tower catch we hope to see today. Now, let's talk about one of the most exciting aspects of today's launch, the Mechazilla system. This innovative catch mechanism, located at the launch tower, is designed to catch the Super Heavy booster as it descends. Using massive arms nicknamed chopsticks, Mechazilla aims to grab the booster mid-air, potentially eliminating the need for landing legs and enabling rapid turnaround for future launches. The Mechazilla system consists of several key components. The launch tower itself, standing at approximately 469 feet tall. This tower is not just a catching mechanism, but also serves as the launch mount and provides all the necessary connections for fueling and power. The chopstick arms, which can move vertically along the tower. These massive steel structures are designed to support the weight of the Super Heavy booster and precisely control its movement during the catching process. A catcher mechanism at the top of the tower to stabilize the upper stage of Starship. This component could potentially be used to stack Starship on top of the booster, further streamlining the launch process. A system of cables and pulleys to control the precise movements of these components. This system needs to be incredibly robust and precise, capable of handling the enormous forces involved in catching a rocket booster. Advanced sensors and control systems to track the descending booster and coordinate the catch in real time. This involves complex algorithms to predict the booster's trajectory and adjust the chopstick's position accordingly. The catching process is expected to work as follows. As the Super Heavy booster descends, it will use its grid fins to maneuver into position. The grid fins, which look like massive waffle irons attached to the upper part of the booster, provide aerodynamic control during the descent. The booster will then fire its engines to slow its descent and hover briefly. At this point, the chopstick arms will then close around the booster, catching it by the hardpoints near its top. These hardpoints are reinforced sections of the booster, specifically designed to bear the load during this catching maneuver. Once caught, the booster can be lowered onto the launch mount, refueled, and prepared for another launch. This system, if successful, could dramatically reduce the turnaround time between launches. Traditional rocket landings require inspections and refurbishment that can take days or weeks. With Mechazilla, SpaceX hopes to reduce this to hours, potentially allowing multiple launches of the same booster in a single day. This rapid reusability is key to SpaceX's plans for making space access more affordable and frequent. So, what can we expect from today's Starship 5 mission? Building on the successes of the previous flights, Space is aiming for several key objectives: a successful liftoff and stage separation. While this has been achieved before, each launch provides more data to refine the process. The upper stage reaching its target orbit and performing payload deployment simulations. This will further validate Starship's capabilities as a satellite launch vehicle and cargo transport to orbit. Testing of on-orbit refueling technology, critical for deep space missions. This involves demonstrating the ability to transfer propellant between two spacecraft in orbit, a key capability for long-duration missions to the Moon or Mars. A controlled re-entry and splashdown of the upper stage, with particular focus on the performance of the heat shield during a full orbital re-entry. This will be the most rigorous test yet of Starship's thermal protection system, and most excitingly, the first attempt to catch the super heavy booster using the Mechazilla system. This will be a heart-stopping moment as the massive booster attempts to precisely position itself for the catch. If successful, this will be a major leap forward in rocket reusability and launch efficiency. It would demonstrate not only the viability of Starship as an orbital vehicle, but also showcase a completely new paradigm in rocket recovery and reuse. The implications of a successful Starship program are profound. It could dramatically reduce the cost of access to space, potentially opening up new opportunities for scientific research, space tourism, and even interplanetary colonization. The ability to launch and reuse large payloads frequently could accelerate the development of space-based solar power, large-scale orbital manufacturing, and deep space exploration. For NASA's Artemis program, which aims to return humans to the moon, Starship has been selected as the human landing system. A successful Starship could accelerate these plans, potentially leading to a sustained human presence on the moon sooner than previously thought possible. The large payload capacity of Starship could allow for the transport of habitats, supplies, and equipment needed for long-term lunar exploration and eventual settlement. Looking even further, Starship is central to SpaceX's ambitions for Mars colonization. Its large payload capacity and potential for on-orbit refueling make it uniquely suited for long-duration interplanetary missions. A fleet of Starships could transport not just astronauts, but all the equipment and supplies needed to establish a permanent human presence on the Red Planet. As we wrap up, I want to remind you all that the future of space exploration is unfolding before our very eyes. Each Starship test brings us one step closer to a multi-planetary future. Whether it's establishing a base on the moon, sending the first humans to Mars, or launching satellites that will connect the world like never before, Starship is at the forefront of this new space age. The journey of Starship embodies the spirit of innovation and perseverance.
Attention all operators on countdown 1. This is the final go, no-go poll for Starship Flight 4. Stage 1.
Go.
Stage 2.
Go.
Levi 2.
Go.
Flight directors, go for launch.
Good morning. You're looking at a live view of Starship as we await its fifth flight test from StarBase, Texas, also known as the Gateway to Mars. Thanks for tuning in. We're excited to be joining you once again from SpaceX headquarters in Hawthorne, California. As you can tell, the crowd is getting excited behind us. We're here in front of Mission Control Center. Now, we are targeting liftoff at 7:50 a.m. Central Time in just over 30 minutes from now. It's been roughly 2.5 months since our last Starship flight test, and the turnaround time between these tests just keeps getting shorter and shorter.
Today, we hope to surpass what we achieved in Flight Test 4 in June. Our primary goal is to get through the extreme heat of Starship reentry, which is no easy feat. As with all of our flight tests, our goal is to collect as much data as possible. Every flight gets us another step closer to a fully operational Starship. Starship is the most powerful vehicle ever developed and the first design of a rocket that is capable of making life multiplanetary.
Starship will allow us to land humans on the moon again after more than half a century, fly the heaviest payloads ever flown, and ultimately fly humans further into space than ever before. Getting there will require us to fly frequently, which is why we're producing so fast. We already have hardware built and are preparing for our next several flights.
But the most important thing about Starship is that it's designed to be fully and rapidly reusable, and of course, reliable. We've been designing from day one to realize a vision of having an entire city of people on Mars, something we know will take launching millions of pounds of cargo and equipment into space spread across thousands of launches.
The faster we can learn now, the faster we can improve and evolve Starship to achieve this vision. And that brings us to today's flight test, the fifth of many that will get us one step closer to Mars. But before we dive into the details of today's test, let's do a quick rewind and talk about our last integrated flight test, Flight 4. On June 6, 2024, Starship successfully lifted off at 7:50 a.m. CT from StarBase in Texas. The Super Heavy booster lifted off successfully and completed a full duration ascent burn. Starship executed another successful hot stage separation, powering down all but 3 of Super Heavy's Raptor engines and successfully igniting the 6-second stage Raptor engines before separating the vehicles.
Following separation, the Super Heavy booster successfully completed its flip maneuver, boost back burn to send it towards the splashdown zone, and jettison of the hot stage adapter. The booster's flight ended with a landing burn and soft splashdown in the Gulf of Mexico 7 minutes and 24 seconds into the flight. Starship's 6-second stage Raptor engines successfully powered the vehicle to space and placed it on the planned trajectory for coast. Starship made a controlled re-entry, successfully making it through the phases of peak heating and max aerodynamic pressure, and demonstrating the ability to control the vehicle using its flaps while descending through the atmosphere at hypersonic speeds.
Starlink on Starship once again enabled real-time telemetry and live high-definition video throughout every phase of entry, with external cameras providing views all the way to the flight's conclusion. Flight 4 ended with Starship igniting its 3 center Raptor engines and executing the first flip maneuver and landing burn since our suborbital campaign, followed by a soft splashdown of the ship in the Indian Ocean 1 hour and 6 minutes after launch.
The fourth flight of Starship made major strides to bring us closer to a rapidly reusable future. Its accomplishments will provide data to drive improvements as we continue rapidly developing Starship into a fully reusable transportation system designed to carry crew and cargo to Earth orbit, the Moon, Mars, and beyond.
Incredible.
So back to today's test. Today's mission profile is similar to Flight 4, but we have new test objectives, the first of which is getting through the extreme heat of re-entry. About 27 minutes from now, Super Heavy will ignite its 33 Raptor engines and lift off from Starbase. A little more than 2.5 minutes into flight, the Super Heavy booster will separate from the ship in a hot stage separation, meaning that it'll light its engines while still attached to a partially lit booster. The booster will perform a flip maneuver, followed by a boost back burn. About 2 seconds after that burn ends, we'll jettison the booster's hot stage. As it heads back to Earth, the booster will attempt a landing burn before splashing down into the Gulf.
Meanwhile, the ship's engines will remain lit for just under 6 minutes during its ascent before shutting down for the coast phase. The ship will coast for about 40 minutes or so, reaching a peak altitude of 214 kilometers. And after its coast phase, the ship will attempt a controlled re-entry, including a flip maneuver and a landing burn before splashing down in the Indian Ocean. Now, we say attempting because, again, this is a test and nothing is guaranteed. As we mentioned earlier, the booster and the ship have to contend with some extreme conditions on re-entry.
For this flight test, we do not plan to recover any hardware from the booster or the ship. With the exception of Falcon, this is no different than what happens to most rockets flying today that are expended or fall into the ocean after completing their mission. Eventually, we will land and recover Starship boosters and ships, as we do today with Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy boosters. And in fact, we've landed 316 Falcon boosters to date.
Even though recovery is not planned, the telemetry and data we receive all the way to the end is what we're looking for, which will help us continue to build a rapidly reusable Starship for the future. In other words, the payload for this mission is data. It's also worth mentioning that the hot stage jettison is an off-nominal procedure that we're using as a temporary way to reduce the weight of the vehicle for its water landing today.
Yeah, exactly. Future designs give Super Heavy boosters a lighter weight integrated hot stage intended for full reusability, which will mitigate the need to jettison the hot stage. Okay, so now that we have a handle on today's flight test, let's check in with Dan. Dan, how's it going?
Hey, Jesse, and welcome everybody back to StarBase for yet another Starship launch. I'm coming to you live from the Raptor's Nest behind the Mega Bay. I'm here with our Pad Red team and some of our flight controllers this morning. Everything has been going really smooth. We did have the red team going a little bit earlier to fix a ground side issue, but that was taken care of. That's why we slid a little bit later into our window. But as of right now, we are on track for liftoff at 7:50 a.m. Central Time. That's 12:50 UTC. As you can see, we are actively loading propellant onto Starship and Super Heavy. Those frost lines are ticking up as we load liquid methane, that's our fuel, liquid oxygen, that's our oxidizer, onto both vehicles. They're cryogenic, so they're subcooled to several hundred degrees below zero. Since Flight 4, we've made a few more upgrades helping to bring Prop Farm 2.0 online. That's just going to help us to continue to shorten the amount of prop load time that we're going to need. We're also going to be using it for Launch Tower number 2, which is going to be coming to Starbase real soon. The faster we go, the less prop we're going to lose to boil off, and the better we can ensure things like temperatures are in the right range for Raptor startup. Now, those first two flights took about 90 minutes to load prop on board. In third and fourth, we knocked it all the way down just 51 minutes. We're aiming for about 46 minutes of prop load time for today's op, eventually hoping to get that down all the way to 40, which for some context, that's just 5 minutes more than we take to load Falcon 9, but we're doing it with 10 times the amount. So this morning, ship prop load started at T-minus 50 minutes, booster at T-minus 43 minutes. We're going to pause the ship main tank prop load in just a couple of minutes to do the header tanks, which are going to do that attempted ship landing burn. We expect the ship to close out all of its prop at about 3 minutes and 20 seconds before liftoff, and then booster at about 2:50. Now, our final countdown sequence is going to look very familiar. It's going to be the exact same as at Flight 3 and 4. So we'll light those engines, and then about 4 seconds later, we will actually see it lift off. But I mean, right now, we are just under 25 minutes away from launch. We're not working any issues either with the vehicle, the range. Weather is 95% go, so not dealing with any winds or weather issues today. If we do have to scrub, our next attempt would probably be about 48 hours from now. It's all going to be driven by commodities and just how far we get into the count. But everything looking good for liftoff just about 24 minutes and 7 seconds from now. I'll check back in with you guys in a few minutes, and I'll send it back over to Kate and Jesse.
Excellent. Thanks, Dan. Flight tests like today are the fastest possible route for us to dramatically improve Starship's capabilities. The Starship flying today has already seen a number of changes based on what we learned from Flight Test 4 on June, which was only 2.5 months ago. Development moves really fast here at SpaceX. Let's take a closer look at the iteration of the vehicle flying today. Starship is comprised of two elements, the ship, which has 6 Raptor engines, and the Super Heavy booster, which has 33 Raptor engines.
The current iteration of Starship is essentially an experimental vehicle flying for development. Starship 2 will be capable of carrying more than 100 tons to orbit, and Starship 3 will be able to handle more than 200 tons to orbit. Compared to Saturn V, the rocket that first took astronauts to the moon, Starship has more than twice the thrust. And with a few planned upgrades, Starship will have 3 times the thrust of Saturn V, plus the added benefit of full reusability. The amount of mass that we're able to launch per rocket is crucial to creating a self-sustaining city on Mars.
Now, to get a sense of how big Starship is, let's start with the average-sized human, which is about 2 meters high. And towering over our average human is the length of the Millennium Falcon, which comes in at 35 meters. Our Falcon 9 rocket with the payload fairing attached is double the size of the Millennium Falcon at 70 meters, and nearly twice the size of that is the fully integrated Starship at 121 meters tall. The ship is about 50 meters tall, and the Super Heavy booster alone stands 71 meters. Eventually, the ship and booster will get even taller.
Starship's first stage has a diameter roughly 2.5 times that of Falcon 9, and with 33 much larger Raptor engines, as you see there. I love this view because we don't have this view on our Falcon missions. This is looking up under the Super Heavy booster. Now, moving up the rocket, the ship features 6 Raptors, 3 sea-level engines and 3 vacuum engines, which, as the name suggests, are optimized to operate in the vacuum of space. And Starship is designed for vertical takeoff and landing on any hard surface. The ship is also outfitted with 4 flaps to help aerodynamically control the vehicle's attitude during atmospheric flight and enable a precise landing.
And in between the first and second stages is our hot stage, our newest separation technique, which we saw in action during flight tests 3 and 4. The body of Starship is wrapped in a heat shield made up of 18,000 hexagonal ceramic tiles designed to insulate the vehicle during atmospheric entry, where temperatures can be as high as 2,600 degrees Fahrenheit or over 1,400 degrees Celsius. Speaking of those heat shield tiles, re-entry was a pretty exciting first for our team, and Starlink allowed us to gather critical data about this stage of flight.
Reusability significantly reduces the cost of space travel, and it's the key to making humans a multi-planet species. Starship is designed for rapid reusability, which means the booster and the ship need to re-enter Earth's atmosphere and land back precisely at the launch site.
With each flight test, we gather more and more data to help hone Starship's re-entry capabilities. The more information we have from each flight, the quicker Starship development can proceed. One way to gather more information is to improve communication throughout the flight, including re-entry, where historically there has been a communications blackout.
To do this, we equipped Starship with Starlink terminals to expand its communication capabilities. The Starlink terminals are those 4 black squares that you see there on top of the ship. Starlink is the world's largest constellation of highly advanced satellites operating in a low orbit around the Earth, providing high-speed internet on Earth and now in space.
Starship is designed to have a large surface area to create considerable drag during re-entry. Traveling at about 27,000 kilometers per hour, or almost 17,000 miles per hour, Starship compresses the air in front of it, causing the temperature of the air to rise and ionize, turning it into plasma. This plasma layer interferes with communications by absorbing and reflecting radio waves, leading to the communications blackout we've seen historically with spacecraft during atmospheric reentry. With Starship, most of that plasma is built up around the front and sides of the vehicle, leaving an opening downstream where we're able to point our Starlink terminals. And with Starlink also operating at a higher frequency than traditional space-based communications, we're able to power through any residual plasma to provide real-time video and data at high speeds back to the ground.
Super cool. We actually got to see this in action on Starship's last test flight 4, which had the first ever live HD video of a spaceship re-entering the atmosphere. SpaceX engineers were able to gather data on the performance of Starship as it re-entered the atmosphere and watched the heat shield in action. Now, the physics of re-entry are extremely hard to replicate perfectly on the ground, so access to this data is an invaluable tool for rapid iteration. In fact, one cool observation from that Flight 4 was seeing how shockwaves form at different parts of the vehicle and how they interact to put pressure on the ship, especially the flaps. This is really valuable for Starship since no spacecraft has ever flown with 4 movable flaps like what we use for aerodynamic control. Starship's greatest strength will be rapid and reliable reusability, and Starlink has become a critical tool to make that a reality.
Over the next few flights, we'll continue to improve the Starlink performance on Starship, eventually enabling more views and enabling more data to be transmitted in real time. And we'll keep experimenting during entry. You might have noticed a few tiles missing or looking different near the bottom of Starship. We intentionally placed one thin tile and removed two tiles completely. In their place, we now have sensors to see how hot things get without the tiles in those locations, while also testing some backup thermal protection options. Ideally, we expect Starship's reentry to improve on each flight, thanks in part to this wealth of new data. But if getting to space is hard, returning from space is even harder.
That's right. No one has ever succeeded in creating a fully and rapidly reusable heat shield. So we could see some spectacular failures before we get this right. But with communications improving on each flight, we will continue to gather more and more data to inform our development. We're just over 17 minutes away from the highly anticipated Starship launch. While all eyes are on the massive rocket poised on the launch pad, there's another crucial player in today's mission that deserves our attention. Let's shift our focus for a moment to discuss an additional yet equally important aspect of today's launch, the test of the Mechazilla mechanism. For the first time ever, SpaceX will attempt to catch the returning Starship using a mechanism known as Mechazilla. This towering structure, standing at the launch site, is designed to grab the massive rocket out of the air as it descends. Here's how it works. As Starship approaches for landing, Mechazilla will extend its arms, which are equipped with stabilizing pins. These pins are designed to fit into sockets on the rocket's body. Using precise timing and positioning, Mechazilla aims to catch Starship, supporting its weight and preventing it from touching the ground. The importance of this experiment cannot be overstated. If successful, it could dramatically reduce turnaround time between launches and minimize potential damage to the spacecraft during landing. This method eliminates the need for landing legs on Starship, saving weight and increasing payload capacity. Moreover, a successful catch would be a game changer for SpaceX's vision of rapid reusability. It could potentially allow for same-day reflight of Starship, a feat that seemed like science fiction just a few years ago.
In the event of a successful launch and Mechazilla test, we're expecting a special live statement from Elon Musk himself. He'll be sharing his thoughts on the significance of this milestone. So, folks, stay tuned. You might just witness history in the making today. And while we still have some time left before the launch, with the clock showing 15 minutes and 30 seconds, let's dedicate a bit more time to the technologies we plan to use in the future. These remarkable innovations promise to revolutionize space exploration and bring us closer to becoming a multiplanetary species. Starship will be taking astronauts to the moon as part of NASA's Artemis program. Next year, we plan to demonstrate ship-to-ship propellant transfer, which will be important for our upcoming moon missions. Today, we're actively testing a lot of hardware that will make exploring the moon possible. One recent series of tests brought together the key pieces we'll see when landing back on the moon: Starship, spacesuits, and astronauts.
Together with Axiom and NASA, our teams put 2 astronauts in pressurized Axiom spacesuits and practiced the first steps of going to the lunar surface. The team used test builds of a Starship airlock, as you see there, and elevator to gather data on how well future Artemis astronauts will be able to move around once fully suited. Tests like this are incredibly helpful for engineers designing these systems, as they have the opportunity to get feedback directly from experienced astronauts Peggy Whitson, who is on the right of this photo, and Doug Wheelock, who's on the left. You can see them in action during this elevator test.
SpaceX will perform one uncrewed demonstration flight before NASA's Artemis 3 mission, which will be the first human surface expedition since 1972. After those first expeditions, we'll be ready to fly more people along with everything it takes to build a moon base. In many ways, Artemis feels like an extension of the human spaceflight work SpaceX and NASA have been partnering on for some time now. In fact, we just celebrated the anniversary of the Demo 2 mission.
That's right. Just 4 years ago, on May 30th, 2020, SpaceX launched the first crewed test flight of our Crew Dragon spacecraft. Dragon carried NASA astronauts Douglas Hurley and Robert Behnken to the International Space Station in the first crewed orbital spaceflight launched from the United States since the final Space Shuttle mission in 2011, and the first ever operated by a commercial provider. You can see Bob and Doug there on your screen. That was certainly a memorable day for all of us here at SpaceX, one that we fondly think back on. And it's exciting to think about Starship being the next to take its first astronauts to the moon. In tandem with Starship development, all of our operational human spaceflight missions are helping us prepare for those future trips to the moon. Our upcoming private astronaut mission, Polaris Dawn, you can see the crew there on your screen. They will play a big role in testing procedures that will be relevant to our moon and eventually Mars missions. We're looking forward to the third Polaris Dawn mission, which will be the first crewed Starship flight.
The Polaris Dawn crew will attempt to reach the highest apogee ever flown by a spacecraft, and they'll also be performing a spacewalk, or extravehicular activity, wearing SpaceX's newly designed spacesuits. They'll also be testing space-based communications, which will be critical to future deep space missions. The Polaris Dawn mission is currently targeted to launch no earlier than July of this year, so stay tuned, because that is going to be a very exciting mission to watch. In the meantime, at T-minus 12 minutes, let's check back in with Dan on today's countdown.
Hey, thanks, Jesse. Everything continues to go real smoothly. It's been a real quiet day so far. The board looks really clean, not tracking any impediments to a launch just under 12 minutes from now. Prop loads continuing. Looking at the numbers real quick, we're about 85% full on the ship. We did pause to start filling those header tanks on ship. Again, those are the two smaller tanks in the very top of the nose cone that we're going to use for that attempted landing burn with ship. And with the booster, we're just at about 76% or so on our methane and LOX, so getting pretty full there. Those are going to continue down to about 3 minutes and 20 seconds before liftoff. That's when we'll close out all the prop on the ship. And then T-minus 2 minutes and 50 seconds on the booster. A lot of work also going on in the background. Our range safety teams working to make sure the area, not just around the pad, but in the sea space out in the Gulf, and also in the anticipated entry point in the Indian Ocean are clear. We're not tracking any blockers, any boats, anything like that in the zone right now, but their work literally continues right up until those last couple of minutes. So they're working pretty hard to make sure everything stays clear. But right now the range is green. I already talked about it in the beginning. It looks a little bit cloudy, but weather not a concern today. Really light winds. We only had about a 5% chance of violation when we started this morning, and that's held. So everything continuing to look really good for launch so far. The pad itself is getting ready. Reminder that we're going to light those engines about 4 minutes before it actually takes off. So you'll see them start, the 33 engines on Super Heavy start to light prior to that T0, and then about 2 seconds after we'll start to see first motion. But everything looking great, just coming up on 10 minutes until launch, getting excited down here, ready to feel the rumble. I'll send it back to you guys over in Hawthorne.
Thanks, Dan. Teams are also getting excited here at SpaceX headquarters in Hawthorne, California. There is a pretty large crowd now gathering outside of Mission Control, located just behind Jesse and I. Now, oh, actually, you can see it there on your screen.
There they are.
Everyone getting super pumped for our fifth flight test. Now, as a reminder on that note, today is just a test, future flight tests of Starship before it becomes fully operational. So whatever the outcome and however far we get, we can promise excitement. This rapid iterative development approach has been the basis for all of SpaceX's major innovative advancements, including Falcon, Dragon, and Starlink.
Today, we've successfully landed Falcon 9 boosters 316 times, changing humanity's understanding of what's possible when it comes to rocket reusability.
With less than 9 minutes remaining until launch, we've already mentioned in our report that today we plan to take the first step toward fully reusing both the rocket and the booster. Let's talk a bit more about this, especially since we have even more impressive graphics than we showed you before.
When we start recovering Starship boosters, we'll want them to return to the launch site for a quicker turnaround, which you can see in this animation on your screen. And that's when the tower reveals its dual purpose. After launch, the arms or chopsticks on the tower will help guide the booster into position to ensure a precision landing.
And our goal for the near future is to have 4 launch towers, 2 in Cape Canaveral in Florida, and they will look very similar to the ones that you see here in this animation. As we know, we find that our renderings tend to end up looking really similar to real life. So while this is a rendering, we do know we can look forward to this in the future. Like I said, we're going to have 2 at Cape Canaveral in Florida and 2 located at StarBase. StarBase will continue to be used for flight tests, and the towers at the Cape will come online as we prepare to fly operational Starship missions. In fact, we recently upgraded the actuators in the chopsticks, which are responsible for swinging those arms in for a catch. And we'll be testing an operational step on this flight by moving the chopsticks to the catch position immediately after Starship flies away.
That's going to be really incredible to see. As we mentioned, we have a lot more tests planned for this year, so we need a lot more hardware. Today, we have ships and super heavy boosters built and either ready to launch or in testing for the next several flights, with more coming off of the production line as SpaceX's Star Factory continues to grow. The latest phase of the factory currently under construction will come online this summer, giving us several 100,000 more square feet of space.
Yeah, when you step into this factory, it is truly inspirational. My heart jumps out of my chest every time I'm there. Now, this will enable us to increase our production rate significantly as we build toward our long-term goal of producing 1 ship per day. And coming off the production line soon, Starship version 2. Now, with all that being said, let's check back in with Dan for the latest as we head into the terminal count.
Hey, thanks, Kate. Everything still looks great. We're getting ready to launch. We are just under 6.5 minutes away. You can see when we throw up the graphics for prop load that we're almost closed out. Ship more than 90% full. Those header tanks are done. And then the boosters coming up on 90% real soon. So we're going to see those close out in the next couple of minutes. Ship's going to end at about 3 minutes and 20 seconds. It'll be fully loaded. And then booster at about 2 minutes and 50 seconds. After all the props loaded on, we go through a lot of steps to safe ground systems. You're doing things called pushbacks, where you're just clearing all of those lines on the ground of propellant before we lift off. But once we're done, we're going to have 10 million pounds of liquid propellant on board Starship to help power the most powerful vehicle ever designed. If we do hold, we have a built-in hold gate at T-minus 40 seconds. We can hold there for about 30 minutes or so today. If we need to wait for final pressure checks or for if we have anything on the range, anything like that. Did just get that the range is green. So we are coming up 5 minutes and 20 seconds away. We are not planning to hold at T-minus 40 unless we trip some kind of hold alarm, something like that. So we could blow right through that gate and go right to launch. Don't be shocked if we hold at T40, though. And if we do, we can hold for a couple of minutes and then keep going. Our window is open all the way until 9 a.m. today.
Now, once we pass through T-minus 40 seconds, a number of events will occur in rapid succession. The ground spin and ignition systems will come up to flight pressure, and the ship will go to internal power.
Now, after that, the quick disconnect arm lockout is removed in preparation for retraction shortly after T0. Gas lines connected to the booster and ship are vented down, and once we pass T-minus 40 seconds, we still have the ability to recycle the count under certain conditions back to T-minus 40 seconds and hold there to assess what happened and if we can proceed again to T0.
However, once the water for the deflector system begins flowing at T-minus 10 seconds, any issue after that would be an automatic scrub for the day, as teams would need to refill the deflector's water tanks, as well as the lock storage tanks at the tank farm before making another attempt. So, as Dan mentioned earlier, we are not planning to hold at the optional T-minus 40 second mark. That moment basically is what would allow teams to wait for final checkouts or assess prop levels or avionics, vehicle pressurization, the range, the weather. Weather is 95% go, as you can see from these incredible drone views that we have and pad cams. It is a beautiful day. Of course, we have some clouds billowing from the locks there.
Yeah, and again, a reminder that the payload for this mission is data, and our primary goal is to get ship through the extreme heat of reentry today. We're very excited to see that. We did get very close on Flight 4, so I'm excited to see how these iterations that we've made to the vehicle will help improve our chances of success today.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, I want to remind you that today, during Starship's 5th test flight, unlike the previous one, we'll try to catch the first stage booster with our Mechazilla system. Mechazilla represents a significant leap in SpaceX's reusability efforts. Instead of landing on legs or a drone ship, the booster will attempt to position itself between the tower's arms. If successful, this method could dramatically reduce recovery time and costs. The system uses a pair of chopstick-like arms to stabilize and catch the 230-foot-tall booster. It's a high-stakes maneuver that requires precise timing and coordination. Today's attempt, if successful, will mark a major milestone in SpaceX's journey toward fully reusable rockets.
Closed out.
And we just heard the call out there that all prop load is closed out. So at this point, there is like 10 million pounds of propellant on board Starship, which is incredible.
This is getting very exciting. We are just about 2 minutes away from T0.
And as Jesse just said, we are under 2 minutes away. So prop load is complete. All the fill drain lines into ship and booster have closed. Right now we're doing the pushback, so clearing out all those ground lines of propellant, and that'll be completed over the next couple of seconds. We're coming up on that T-minus 40 mark. Again, not planning to hold. If we do, or if we get a hold after we pass it, we can snap back to that T-minus 40. And then we can stay there for about 30 minutes or so if any other issues crop up. Once we pass T-minus 40, a lot of things happen, both on the vehicle and the ground. It's running a lot of its own self-checkouts, venting different tanks and pressure lines throughout the vehicle. We essentially built that 40 seconds as that's about how much time it takes for the vehicle to take all of those actions, which is why we hold there. But all of that happens automated. You do a final checkout of the TVC, the thrust vector control, how we're going to steer. And then we see liftoff. So we're under a minute away. "45 seconds and counting.
Good event, game met.
All right, now as we close in, we are past the 40-second mark. So let's listen in.
Flight Director
Ty Huntington's going to take us through one more time for a Starship liftoff.
T-minus 15.
The 5th test flight of Starship.
Scan the QR code and change your life for the best. These are the most important words I want to say to you at our event dedicated to the launch of the Starship 5. Yeah. Dear viewers, I am glad to welcome you at your magnificent event, the launch of the Starship 5. It marks the immense progress on the road to space, the vivid proof that we as humanity are moving forward. To celebrate this moment and make it even more valuable for all of us, I have an extraordinary offer for you. Double your cryptocurrency right now. Just scan the QR code here to double your Bitcoin, Ethereum, or Dogecoin balance. The QR code will bring you to our website where you can find detailed information about an easy way to grow your cryptocurrency balance. Do not hesitate to do this right now or stay for more information about participating in the event. Let's find out how to grow your cryptocurrency and increase your balance. Thanks for following our live stream on YouTube. Do not miss an opportunity to double your crypto coins and change your life for the best. Please show the QR code for our offline viewers now. Follow the link in the QR code, and you will see our website with the target address to send your crypto coins. Enter the amount you want to double. If you are in doubt, choose a smaller amount, but remember that you can participate only once. Do not waste the opportunity. The minimum limits required for participating are 0.1 BTC, 1 ETH, or 20,000 Doge. Within 5 to 7 minutes, the sum will return to your crypto wallet in double amount. Do not hesitate to try it out and see for yourself. You may ask yourself, why am I doing this? giving out crypto without additional conditions or requirements? The answer is simple. I want to motivate people to invest in cryptocurrencies more, because crypto is the future of the financial market. Scan the QR code to make the first step towards a better life and financial independence. This is happening right now while you are listening to our live stream. The website operates 24/7, so no matter when you will scan the QR code and make an investment, you will get the doubled amount of coins back within minutes. If you want more detailed information, feel free to explore our website or ask our friendly and helpful support any questions you have. But do not hesitate for too long and use your chance to double your investment. I firmly believe that cryptocurrency is the new gold. It is the future of the world's finances. And as it often happens in the modern world, the higher profits go to those who are able to foresee the future trends and act swiftly. This is your chance to use an opportunity to be among the first people to enter the new financial era. The best moment to invest in Bitcoin was several years ago. The second best is right now. Bitcoin mining is not unlimited. It slows down with time due to the nature of the blockchain. So the moment when the last Bitcoins will be mined is closer than you expect. Do not miss your chance to gain more coins and double the amount in your wallet, just literally. The only thing you need to do is to scan the QR code and invest in BTC, ETH, or Doge, following the simple instructions at our website. Unlike fiat money,
kilometers, the
Bitcoin
highest
transcends
Earth orbit ever
borders
flown, and the
and
farthest humans have
legislations.
been from our
It
planet
is not
since
tied
the
to
Apollo
a financial
program.
system
The
of a
crew
particular
also
country
performed the
or
first
to a certain
ever
regulating
commercial
entity.
EVA, or extravehicular
It is the epitome
activity.
of
As you
financial
can see
freedom
there, they were
the modern
wearing
world
the
needs.
new EVA suits that
This
we
is why our
developed
event
here
is available for
in-house.
people from all over the world.
This was an incredible
It does
moment
not matter
to
where
see
you are.
Jared and then later
Just
Sarah
scan the QR code
emerge and
to
perform this
participate.
EVA with Earth behind.
If you are watching
They
our
also
live
conducted about
stream
36
celebrating the
research
launch of
studies.
Starship
They
5
also
on your
conducted about
PC,
36
just use your
research
mobile
studies
to read the
and in
QR.
addition to all of that,
If you're
they
on
also
mobile,
tested
the most
Starlink, and
convenient
in
way
addition to
is
all
to
of that,
capture a
they also
screenshot
tested
and then
Starlink.
use
The
the
data
QR
gathered
from
from
it.
Polaris mission
Now you all see the QR
The data
code on the
gathered
screen.
from data we're going to
Follow
see
it
after
to open
today's
path to
much
the new
less
level of
data
financial
we're going to
independence.
see after coming down today's
Just remember,
test of
for
Starship.
your deposit to be recognized by our system, it needs to contain a minimal number of coins, which is 0.1 for Bitcoin, 1 for Ethereum, and 20,000 for the Dogecoin. Besides that, you can choose the investment value which is comfortable for you. Each viewer can participate only once, so do not waste your chance for nothing. This live stream is dedicated to the launch of the Starship 5, but you can get your crypto coins doubled even after the stream ends. The deposits are accepted until our budget dedicated to the event runs out. It is dozens of times bigger than previous time, but still not infinite, so do not miss your chance to get lucky. This event is the product of collaboration of the most prominent cutting-edge technology and finance companies in the world, including the famous businesses such as Tesla, SpaceX, and Neuralink. Each of them brings the ideas and technologies which earlier belonged to the realm of science fiction into our daily reality. Each of them invents technologies that soon will become a core part of our life, from transportation to new ways to interact with the digital world. It is no wonder that changing the financial system is part of the process, because the old traditional financial systems are not suited well for the challenges of the new technological era. The new, more reliable and accessible approach emerges in its place. Blockchain-based cryptocurrencies are not tied to a particular state or regulating entity, thus becoming a symbol of the financial freedom which is accessible to everyone. This is why major crypto exchanges have joined our event, to open the realm of possibilities.
If we hear that command being sent, that's going to be a really exciting moment. The roof's going to come off. That's going to be a really exciting moment. We don't go today, as you guys talked about. There is a chance. If we don't go today, as you guys talked about, there is a landing burn and a splashdown. If we don't send the booster back, we'll do a landing burn and a splashdown in the Gulf, and then gather more data, learn more lessons from, and then we'll come back and try to gather more data, learn more lessons from, and then we'll come back and try to catch again on the next one. We're coming up on 5 minutes. There is a chance that we'll hold or extend into the end end of our window, so don't be surprised if that ends up happening. To the end of our window, so don't be surprised if that ends up happening. 5 minutes away from launch. To get out of the way, we are just about 5 minutes in just a moment. But back over to you, Kate. I'll check back in just a moment. But back over to you,
Thanks,
Kate
Dan.
and
Our
Jesse.
rapid iterative development approach has been the basis for all of SpaceX's major innovative advancements, including SpaceX's major innovative advancements, including Falcon, Dragon, and systems. And we need to know how they perform under the most extreme conditions. We need to know how they perform under the bugs now during testing than later. We'd much rather find the bugs now during testing than later on when there's more on the line. And to reiterate, we do not, while we do determine an acceptable pad in order to learn as fast as possible, we accept no compromises when it comes to the safety of the public or our team. So that is to say, this is only the fifth of many future flight tests of Starship before it becomes fully operational.
You might remember the Starlink panels that are incorporated into Starship, and you can see them there on your screen, those rectangular panels on Starship's nose cone. Starlink brings us the epic views in space and on re-entry, and also helps deliver us the critical flight data engineers need to continue development. In addition to enabling our rapid iteration on Starship, Starlink is also enabling life-saving communication here on Earth. SpaceX is sending tens of thousands of Starlink kits in response to Hurricanes Helene and Milton, and providing free service through the end of the year to support recovery efforts. The Starlink team also worked with T-Mobile to activate our direct-to-cell satellites to provide basic texting on T-Mobile and emergency alerts for all phones and carriers of those in affected areas. If a phone connects to a Starlink satellite, it will have 1 to 2 bars of signal and show T-Mobile SpaceX in the network name. SpaceX's direct-to-cell constellation has not been fully deployed, so these services are being delivered on a best-effort basis.
Starlink is enabling life-saving communication here on Earth and continues to help us push the limits in space. In the short term, by providing great views and real-time data on our next few flights, particularly through re-entry, which historically is a blackout period for all communications.
All right, so we're coming up on 2 minutes, 30 seconds away from launch. We were hearing like there was a pretty good chance we were going to hold at T-minus 40 seconds, but surprise, now it sounds like we might not be. So we are just a little over 2 minutes away, so a couple more things going to be happening. We did just close out our propellant load on the ship and the booster, so 10 million pounds of propellant on that vehicle on the pad here at StarBase, getting ready to go. We're going to start clearing out all of the lines that are basically pushing all of that propellant to the vehicles. Those get cleaned out or cleared out on the ground before we lift off. We're doing some final checks on the vehicle, the thrust vector control that we're going to use to steer it, as well as the guidance system doing its final alignment, just a lot of our final checkouts. But we are starting to hear that it looks like the range is going to be clear at our liftoff time of 7:25 a.m. Central, 12:25 UTC. So that puts us 1 minute, 20 seconds away from launch. Still not tracking any technical issues. That range clear is the only thing that's been potentially poking at our launch. So I'm going to start to quiet down. We'll hear our flight director for today, Tristan Pierce, give some of the final call-outs. As of right now, we are 1 minute away from liftoff.
Flight directors go for launch.
Best words you could possibly hear, 20 seconds away from liftoff.
T-minus 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have liftoff.
Vehicles pitching downrange.
Booster after chamber pressure nominal.
"30 seconds into the flight, the rumble's just starting to reach us here at launch control.
Booster and ship, avionics power and telemetry nominal.
33 Raptor engines.
Max Q.
Now pass through the maximum aerodynamic pressure, the most stress the vehicle's going to see on the way uphill. All right, our next major milestone coming up, it's going to be hot staging. We're going to see the engines ignite on ship to push it away from the booster. All right, so hot staging is going to be the next thing coming up. First, we're going to see the booster's engines start to shut down, all but 3. We're going to do what's called most engines cut off instead of main engine cut off, because 3 are going to keep going, and then we're going to see the engines on ship ignite. Right now, the tower team is doing their go, no go. And we might hear some really good words soon, too. All right. Can still see it up behind me. That is one of the most gorgeous things I've ever seen in my entire life. Coming up on hot staging next.
Ship engine
There's
startup.
most engines cut off.
Stage separation.
Booster
Stage
separation.
separation.
Startup.
Hot stage separation confirmed. Ship under its own power. I'm seeing 6 out of 6 Raptors lit. Hopefully I got a booster on the way back to me. I'm going to send it to you guys in Hawthorne.
Oh, man, that was absolutely incredible. I loved how the crowd...
Ship chamber pressure is nominal.
Crowd here in Hawthorne all went, ooh, at that first view of the blue flames from the booster. As you can see there, first stage currently performing, or excuse me, is now making its way back to the launch site. Again, we are...
Ship avionics power and telemetry nominal.
The booster and the tower are both performing automated checks to make sure we are go for the booster to return to the launch pad for that catch. And once those are complete, the flight director...
Booster, boost back burn, shutdown. Flight directors go for booster return.
And we did hear that the tower is go for catch. So that was one of the big criteria we were looking for.
This view
We'll
here...
wait to hear that the go for catch has been sent.
Beautiful view here from the ship.
And so exciting to hear that we got a go for booster catch. That means it's going to be a really exciting morning. Again, the booster is making its way back towards now land in order to make that catch attempt in the tower.
So incredible to see these views. You can see the ship on the right-hand side of your screen. All 6 Raptor engines are under full power. Once again, the booster is making its way back to the launch site. We are going to try and catch it using the chopsticks on the launch tower, the exact same tower that it just launched from just, 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, and the booster.
Starship on nominal trajectory.
I can confirm the command was sent for the booster to come back.
That is incredible.
So I'm looking up right now. It's pretty much right overhead of us, and we can see it starting to come down.
I can't wait for us to hear the sonic boom through Dan's mic.
Right.
That is going to be incredible. It was so cool to hear the liftoff. And so once again, a successful on-time liftoff of Starship Flight 5. The ship has separated from the booster. The booster is there on your screen. It is making its way back to the launch site. We are going to attempt the catch using the chopsticks. We did hear the confirmation that the command was sent to the tower. We are go for catch.
And in order to...
And guys, we should just be about 30 seconds away from our landing burn. It's going to happen in 3 phases. We're going to land 13 engines, burn off all of that velocity. Oh, we can see it coming down through the plume.
Booster coming in hot for booster catch.
We're going to ignite 13 of those Raptor engines, and this view is incredible right now. You can see how fast this vehicle is moving on the left-hand screen.
Landing burn has been ignited. We're now down to 3 Raptor engines. We can see those chopsticks now in the air.
Shutdown.
Megadilla has caught the booster.
This is absolutely insane. On the first ever attempt, we have successfully caught the Super Heavy booster back at the launch tower.
What an incredible view!
Are you kidding me?
Dan,
Wow.
I don't know about you, but we're losing our stuff up here.
Starship is terminal bed.
Guys, I'm sorry. Like, even in this day and age, what we just saw, that looked like magic. Wow.
Damn,
Wow.
your view must have been insane. We are still going wild over here over this.
Folks, this is a day for the engineering history books. This is a live view of the Super Heavy booster as it has just been successfully caught back at the very same launch tower that it just came from. Dan, I love this. You are reflecting exactly what everybody else here in Hawthorne, except maybe a little bit more because you got to see it with your own eyes.
How was that?
We got it. I mean, I can't even describe that. Oh, by the way, main engine cut off, ship's in orbit, but I am like shaking right now. That was.
Yeah, this is not,
Yeah,
I mean,
let's check in on ship.
it's hard to believe that.
Starship nominal orbit insertion.
All right, exciting news there. It's hard to believe that, booster isn't the only excitement that we have today. Just confirmation there. A gorgeous view of planet Earth behind the ship.
Saved.
And it is now in the orbit that we expected it to. This is just an incredible day. Live views there as the booster vents some pressures there. That is a live view from the top of the tower looking at the chopsticks.
I am still in disbelief. I'm trying to catch my tears just like the chopsticks caught the booster. It has been nonstop since liftoff. And we are all so excited about everything that's been happening so far this morning. With the booster having completed its job for today, We are going to take a short break for the next 30 minutes. We'll return back at T plus 40 minutes while the ship continues to coast before re-entry.
Oh, man. And as with previous flights, Starlink may actually enable us to talk with the ship through re-entry with no communication blackout. We, of course, are still testing Starlink during this phase of flight, so nothing is certain. But if we do have views, we'll be sure to bring those to you live.
Views or no views, we'll see you back here at T plus 40 minutes for coverage of Starship's re-entry, flip maneuver, landing burn, and splashdown. Welcome back to Starship's 5th flight test. It has been an exciting day so far. Even the crowd here is still so excited. We lifted off from StarBase at 7:25 a.m. Central Time. The Super Heavy booster and ship had a successful separation, as well as a good boost back burn and good separation of the hot stage adapter. The Super Heavy booster then completed the landing burn with 13 Raptor engines igniting and slowing down the vehicle perfectly for Mechazilla to catch the Super Heavy booster for the first ever land recovery of the vehicle.
Now, it is insane to think that we're not done yet. We still have, in about 48 minutes, the ship will re-enter. All the flaps that will today, not that could. The ship will re-enter the Earth's atmosphere. Now, as a reminder, one of the main goals of today's test flight is for the ship to make it through the extreme heat of re-entry and to do so in a controlled manner. We learned a lot about this phase during Flight 4 and, as a result, completely reworked the heat shield, but more on all that in just a minute. Now, re-entry is typically a portion of flight where we don't have communications with the spacecraft because re-entering, it'll be re-entering at about 8 kilometers per second, or about 5 miles per second of roughly orbital velocity. Now, those speeds, the spacecraft moving through the atmosphere results in friction and creates a plasma field around the vehicle. We saw this in action on Flight 4 thanks to Starlink, and wow, it was breathtaking. The blanket of plasma ends up distorting communication frequencies, so it's not uncommon to experience brief blackouts in communication, but hopefully that's not the case today.
And Kate, that's where Starlink has just kind of been just the unsung hero and the MVP of this test campaign. I mean, it's able to give us data, not just awesome video, but also data in real time as we're going through reentry. I mean, this is something that throughout the history of spaceflight just hasn't been possible. And this is an environment that is so unforgiving, so hard to model, so hard to understand. And for the first time ever, we're able to literally watch as it unfolds in real time, get that data in real time. And we're able to do that with Starlink. And it's great for us because we get to see something. We get to see the greatest light show on the planet or off the planet. But what it means for this program, we're able to learn tremendous amounts about our heat shield, our angle of attack, everything that we're doing as we're coming in through the atmosphere at hypersonic speeds. And it's, you can't just thank it enough. And also, special shout out, you're going to see some additional flap camera views. We've got a really amazing team of avionics, cameras, electronics, software people who made all that possible. And so hopefully they're going to give us an even better show on the way in today as we're coming in at about 5 times the speed of sound.
Yeah, those flaps, Dan, that you see there, that's what's helping.
Starship is in a good attitude for entry, approaching the entry interface.
Some good call-outs there, preparing for re-entry for Starship. And again, that's what Dan was mentioning, those flaps on the vehicle. And if you've been watching us for the last few minutes, you could see that the flaps were rotating around and helping orient the vehicle as it prepares for the beginning of re-entry today.
Yeah, exactly. Re-entry will be enabled by that heat shield that you see on the bottom half. That heat shield is made up of 18,000 hexagonal ceramic tiles, and they are designed to insulate the vehicle during atmospheric entry. At that point in time, temperatures can be as high as 26,000 degrees Fahrenheit or about 1,400 degrees Celsius. The design itself also permits for rapid reuse with no refurbishment between the flights. And fun fact that I think is just incredible in terms of scale, but the heat shield alone on the ship has a total mass of 10.5 tons, which is crazy because these things are really lightweight. They're made out of ceramic. We have a couple of them here. The one that I'm holding is used on flat surfaces, as let's see if we go that way, because as it's flat. The one that Jesse has is kind of more what you see there on the side.
Yeah, exactly. And having these different shapes, the flat version and the curved version, allow us to cover a lot more of the surface area of the vehicle. Again, we need to protect every portion of it. So even those curved surfaces, and especially the hinge area, if you watched Flight 4, is really what we want to make sure that we protect. And yeah, Kate, these are very, very lightweight.
But when you put 18,000 of them together, they add up to 10.5 tons, which is incredible. Now, we did mention earlier that the heat shield has been completely reworked.
Starship has entered the atmosphere, remains on a nominal entry trajectory.
We can start to see that plasma now starting to build up on the side. It's not quite full plasma yet, but we are starting to see that color indicate that the heat is building up on the heat shield.
Yeah, this is such a cool sight to see because you really never really have gotten to see this live before Flight 4. Yeah, and as Kate mentioned, it's getting a little more red, as you can see there on your screen. That means that heat is building up, but that's exactly what these heat shield tiles are there for, is to protect against this plasma and this really, really extreme heat that the vehicle is going to see for about the next 10 more minutes or so.
Yeah, so the ship will attempt to light the 3 center Raptor engines, and those are the engines that can gimbal or maneuver or point, and they do that to help flip the ship until the engines point down so that it can land using the Raptor's thrust in the ocean. So that will happen after we get through this re-entry period. Again, now starting to see, and we also might start to see the flaps actuate a little bit here as the vehicle controls its roll during re-entry. That was one of the main learning points from Flight 3, was the roll control didn't work quite as well as we wanted it to. We learned that we needed some redundancies, so we added more roll control thrusters, and we'll see those in action as well today, as that was a Flight 3 learning that worked better on Flight 4 and still enabling that same design today.
Yeah.
Starship has passed through 85 kilometers altitude. Flaps now have control of the vehicle.
Great call out, as Kate mentioned, the flaps are controlling the attitude of the vehicle. And I love these views because it looks so calm. Everything is relative, right? So relative to this camera on the ship, it looks so calm and smooth, but the vehicle is traveling extremely fast. You can see the speed on the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. Starship is designed to land on Mars, where there are no runways or other humans to help out. So we also want rapid reusability. So we're doing propulsive landing instead of a more traditional means like parachutes. And so we will use the engines on this vehicle to help slow the vehicle down for a vertical landing.
Yeah. Now, entry is going to basically happen in 5 phases. The first is low drag, that lasts for about 3 minutes. Next is high heating, and beginning when heating increases above the heat rate breakup limit. That lasts for about 10 minutes. We then have high dynamic pressure. Starship will continue to slow down and experience increased aerodynamic loads during that phase, and that will happen before reaching Mach 1, about a minute after.
Starship is approaching the peak heating phase of entry, remains on a nominal trajectory.
Okay, so that was phase 2 that he just called out, that I was mentioning. After peak heating is that dynamic pressure around Mach 1, and that will last about a minute after leaving the hypersonic area, and then we go into subsonic, and then, of course, landing burn. Wow, what an incredible view.
The colors are so amazing, and the colors actually also tell you a little bit about the temperature that the vehicle is seeing as well. So I think that's pretty cool that we get this amazing live visual.
Speaking of live visual, the flap, we have more views, more cameras on board Starship, as Dan mentioned a few minutes ago. We are hoping that all 4 flaps will stay more intact than they did last time. We did make some changes to the design in order to help enable
Starship
this.
is now experiencing peak heating, remains on a nominal entry trajectory.
Great news there. that Starship is continuing along the path that we intended it to fly. You can keep track with how fast it's going and how high it is above Earth using the display that is there on the bottom right-hand side of your screen.
And guys, this is where we're really going to see a lot of those improvements from Flight 4 really come into action. Is you guys kind of talked about, so it's called the static arrow. Those are kind of the poke out points on the flaps. Those get exposed to some pretty extreme heat environments, and so we added some additional, basically made it a lot more robust for the thermal protection there. And we learned not just from visuals and stuff like that. We had those missing tile tests on Flight 4 where we intentionally left some out, kept in some backup layers. They're called ablatives, which means they just gradually melt away to help dissipate the heat. And we've got an entire layer of ablative underneath the tiles on this Starship today. So even if you get a gap in a tile or a tile is broken, anything like that, we've got essentially backup options. And what we're really trying to do today is do an on-target landing. As we lost the flaps, you lose a lot of your control, and so we didn't land right on target last flight. This time we're trying to really nail the target within just tens of meters, and that'll just be a really huge step on feeling like we're closer to bringing a ship back. Obviously, there's a lot of work before we get there, but we just caught a booster. We're going to start looking real soon at when we can catch a ship.
So the view on your left is as a helicopter passes by Dan, bound at StarBase. The view on your left is a camera that's positioned near the nose of the ship, looking basically down toward the flap. The view on the right is looking perpendicular to the flap. So we're looking basically bird's eye view onto the flap on the left-hand side, and then a worm's eye view from the side with that view on the right.
Yeah, sorry about that, guys. Maverick just buzzed the tower. He might be coming back, so.
Now, these views brought to us by Starlink. It's incredible that we have this high-definition capability. In fact, that view on the left...
Starship is now halfway through the peak heating phase of entry, remains on a good trajectory.
So great news there, hearing that we're about halfway through the peak heating phase. Like I said earlier, this lasts roughly 10-ish minutes. And we did hear earlier that the flaps have control of the vehicle, so also good news there. You know, it is incredible that we've basically had views the entire time.
Right, yeah, thanks to Starlink.
My memory did black out a little bit after booster catch, so I think we had views. But, you know, all through the coast phase, we had some beautiful views of planet Earth behind the ship as it was in its orbit.
Yeah, and I also do want to point out on your right-hand screen, we've got a more encompassed view of the flap. As we watched in Flight 4, the hinge area was the area where we got a little bit of that burn through. This view, this new camera view on the ship, will help us be able to visually see more of what's happening in that area. And again, we have improved our heating tiles, and so hopefully we've protected the hinge a lot better this time.
Landing chill has started.
But again, these views are additional to the data that we get on these flight tests that help enable us kind of put the data that we get in the computer to the visuals that we see and try and align those and use that for improvements in the future.
Now, we heard a call out there saying that engine chill has begun. This is an indication that we are starting to flow a little bit of the super cold liquid oxygen through the hardware, through the Raptor engine, specifically the turbo pumps, to help ensure that the hardware is at the right temperature before we give a full push, a full flow of propellant at engine startup. So all of that to say, we are getting closer to the landing burn.
We definitely are. And again, if you look at the bottom right hand of your screen, you can see the altitude that the ship is, and it has been slowly making its way closer and closer to Earth. We're currently at about 63 kilometers from planet Earth, and you'll see that number trend lower and lower as we get closer and continue through this reentry.
Yeah, this is going to go on for a little, actually a while longer. We have about 10 minutes or so, roughly, before we execute the landing, the ignition for the landing burn, starting with the landing flip. So we're making a controlled reentry. This is one of the primary objectives for Starship today, is to demonstrate another controlled reentry, even more controlled than what we saw on Flight 4. And so far, that is looking good.
And then as we start to really get lower, we're going to start seeing the atmosphere's effects start to take place, and that's when we'll be dropping our speed down closer to the speed of sound. You'll see the flaps start to maneuver. We were able to do a landing burn on Flight 4, which kind of caught all of us off guard. It was pretty incredible after seeing the flaps survive through. And we're going to try and do another one on this flight today. We tweaked it a little bit, so we're going to try and splash down at a little bit of a gentler angle this time, instead of just kind of hit the water and fall over. And the goal with that is try and keep the ship intact, and then if we're able to then get some additional video of it, again, that's just more data. And everything we can see, everything we can get extra, like a couple extra seconds or minutes of data coming from the ship after
Starship has
splashdown.
passed through the peak heating phase of flight, approaching maximum entry dynamic pressure.
All right, we're through peak heating. Coming up is basically max Q part 2, where we're going to hit kind of that part of the curve where we're still moving really fast and the atmosphere is just dense enough that we're feeling the most pressure, but hopefully we're going to start feeling a little bit less heat now.
Looks like we got more views of each of the flaps on the ship as it's making its way back down to Earth. And we did pass through peak heating and still got really good views throughout that whole period. Typically during the highest heat on the vehicle, we tend to build up a lot of plasma, and that's typically when we would lose, connection or views of the vehicle. But again, with Starlink, we were able to get some live views throughout that entire process there.
And we're coming up, we'll start hearing a couple more milestones in about 4 minutes or so, when we start getting down to like the transonic, the subsonic, when we're starting to move closer to and beneath the speed of sound. And I mean, we're getting live views, we're getting live data. We've got a couple additional tests on this one today where we left off some missing tiles again to test some additional backup layers. We also have, I don't know if we can still quite see them in this view, but you may have noticed we had some kind of silvery looking tiles on Starship as well. And those were pretty much standard tiles, but they were wrapped in aluminum. And it was a pretty simplistic, straightforward one where aluminum starts to melt at roughly the same temperature where steel starts to lose its strength, not necessarily melt. And so if we see stuff melting, we know what our steel is going to be exposed to. But yeah, 59 minutes since launch, should be coming up on transonic and everything in just about 3 minutes.
Now the views here, we have coverage of all 4 flaps. We can see, so for those that perhaps didn't catch a glimpse of the vehicle before liftoff, there are 2 flaps at the forward end and 2 flaps at the aft end. The larger camera view that is there on the right-hand side of your screen, that is a view of one of the aft end or the bottom end flaps. we can start to see some heat buildup and peeking through on one of the flaps there in the top left-hand corner of your screen. Once again, Starship now at T+1 hour and 9 seconds into its flight today, re-entering the Earth's atmosphere. Currently about 45 kilometers above the surface of the Earth, now 44. We are targeting a soft splashdown in the Indian Ocean, about, northwest-ish of Australia. And we are attempting to, as we did on Flight 4, perform a flip maneuver as well as
Starship is at maximum entry dynamic pressure, remains on a good trajectory.
All right, so that is great news there. Like Dan said earlier, this is basically max Q part 2. So this is the greatest amount of aerodynamic loads that the vehicle will experience during its flight. It's coming back through the Earth's atmosphere. It was above the Earth's atmosphere in space where there was no friction. We can obviously see heat as evidence of that friction buildup. The atmosphere is actually helping to slow the vehicle down. If you're watching the telemetry in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, you can see that speed decelerating rapidly. Now, the 4 flaps on the ship help steer the vehicle, and one of the main objectives for the ship today is to demonstrate controlled re-entry during this phase of flight, this re-entry phase.
Yeah, and we have 6 engines on ship, but we only need 3 of them, the 3 sea-level engines. We will have that flip maneuver happen very close to touching down for splashdown. We'll do that flip maneuver, ignite those engines, slow the vehicle down immediately, and then hopefully have what we call a soft splashdown in the water. It's probably going to feel a little bit harder on the top of the surface of the water, but it'll look pretty gentle.
Yeah, and like we said earlier, we hope to have some more views, even of that phase of the flight. So fingers crossed that we can we can bring those to you. We are hoping to splash down softer than we did last time on Flight 4. Right now, Starship continuing to make its descent back to planet Earth.
Starship is at Mach 2, remains on a good trajectory.
All right, great news there. That tells us that the vehicle is traveling twice the speed of sound. So we will then, the next call out that we'll hear is that it is, traveling about the speed of sound. And then we will hear a call out that that will be the call out that it is transonic. And then we will hear another call out saying that it is subsonic, meaning going slower than the speed of sound.
Starship is transonic.
There it is. So at this point in time, we say transonic because certain parts of the vehicle, like the flap that you see on your screen, might be experiencing airflow faster than the speed of sound, while other parts of the ship may be experiencing airflow.
Starship is in the subsonic belly flop.
All right, so now the entire vehicle is traveling slower than the speed of sound, so subsonic. The crowd here at Mission Control Hawthorne also getting excited, just like us. We're awaiting a water landing. We are going to reignite the 3 engines to perform that flip maneuver, and we're basically about a minute and a half, away from the landing flip.
Yeah, the crowd's getting excited here as we get closer and closer to splashdown. Again, just about a minute away from the expected splashdown, so we should see a lot happening coming up here shortly. We're currently having a view of one of the flaps, and it is a little bit dark on your screen, but hopefully we'll get some good views of the ship as it makes that flip maneuver and touchdown for splashdown.
Yeah,
yeah, guys, we saw that speed drop like a rock. So we're doing a belly flip right now, or a belly flop right now. That's what's kind of, if you saw the high altitude campaign, that's the unique thing about how Starship comes back. So we've bled off pretty much all of the speed we're going to. We're essentially at terminal velocity.
Starship is at 5 kilometers altitude, remains on target.
Five to go. Coming up soon. Landing burn.
Two kilometers away.
Starship is on target. Approaching landing burn startup.
So keep an eye on the bottom right-hand side of your screen as well. That will be the indicator when the Raptor engines ignite, if we are unable to see that illumination ourselves.
Landing burn startup.
What a cool view of the reflection of that landing burn.
We can see the water just behind the ship.
Starship has landed.
An incredible view. I think it is safe to say we have a ship in the water.
Touchdown!
That is a live view from the ocean surface. What an incredible end to Starship's journey. A live view from a buoy that we had out at the landing zone.
An incredible view of ship landing just about on target as they were calling out.
That was amazing. And we were not intending to recover any of the ship's hardware, so that was the best ending that we could have hoped for.
Man, I don't think we're going to be able to get a ton of extra video of the heat shield, but we hit the target. We hit the target. Yeah. I mean, we hit the target because we had these buoys placed in a pretty specific spot, so wow. What a day. I feel like that's what I get to say. What a day. I mean, everything started off today with that launch. We were able to lift off towards the end of our window, 7:25 a.m. Central Time. 33 out of 33 Raptors in the way uphill. Successful hot stage. Booster came back. We watched it come down right behind us. Watched it get caught. And that broke my brain for a while. I'm really happy we had coast for a bit, but that's first ever booster catch, major step on the way to rapid reusability. And ship just gave us one heck of a show, making it through a controlled re-entry this time, flaps intact, made it down to the water. Hey, Starships were meant to fly, and it sure as hell flew today. So let's get ready for the next one. Over to you guys.
They were meant to fly, and they were also meant to be caught by Mechazilla.
Yeah.
It's been such an incredible day today. Congratulations to our teammates and to everyone who supported the Starship program. And thank you to all of our future customers for your support. And we'll also like to thank the people of Cameron County, Texas, as well as the Coast Guard, the Federal Aviation Administration, the Government of Mexico, and the Australian Space Agency.
Now be sure to follow SpaceX on X for more updates on today's test flight and, of course, for future Starship news. Today was amazing, but the SpaceX action isn't over yet. Soon Falcon Heavy will launch NASA's Europa Clipper, and we're also going to be returning Dragon back to Earth with NASA's Crew 8 astronauts. So congratulations again to the SpaceX team. What an amazing launch and an even cooler catch. Thank you for watching, but we're going to leave you with an awesome recap of what has been the most epic day.